I'm just not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show. Appreciate I've got Brian Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. It's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And Mitch, I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion, that's your bad.
You are now listening to Open Season. Your host, Billy Allen.
Welcome. It's another Tuesday, and that means you're tuned in to Open Season. I'm your host, Billy Allen, and I'm sitting here with Justin Allain and Frankie Bratica. We are live from Seasons 52, and we got a lot to chew on tonight. First off, it's all about rest in peace to 86 years young Tommy Heinsohn. And we're talking about the Patriots. They scratched and clawed to beat the Jets. Yeah, sounds like a joke, but no. It's 2020, and the Pats had to claw to get a win against the Jets. And we're talking about the rest of the NFL as we have to touch on Alex Cora is back with the Red Sox. Like it or love it. Are the Saints now the best team in the NFC? AB's long-awaited return didn't look too good. And we're breaking down the NFL candidates. Can the Dolphins make the playoffs? Bills crush the Seahawks. But first, we have to talk about Tommy Heinsohn, an absolute legend from this area, from New Jersey, but came to this area and spent most of his life here. Had his fingers on all 17 of the championships, whether it was a player, a coach, an announcer. And today at 86 years old, Tommy Heinsohn has passed. We actually have a clip. Tommy Heinsohn kind of talking about what it means to win in Boston.
It's both a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing that you are picked to be in this organization because of the history. They think you can fit in. But then the curse is you got to deliver.
Rookie of the Year, Tommy Heinsohn found the range early on.
Caruso has it intercepted by Heinsohn.
You know, what it meant to me was I had so much fun. I was doing something I love to do. And if you're a person who enjoys what you're doing, life is fun. It's not working.
And yeah, there's Tommy talking about how much it meant to him to win in Boston and what it's like to be part of the tradition here. I'll always remember Tommy, you know, whether it was chewing out refs, or whether it was loving Walter. But guys, as we start out, you know, what kind of hits as the news came in today?
So I played you guys the clip before the show, and it was him comparing Steve Smith to Bill Russell. And I think that epitomizes why we love Tommy Heinsohn. I mean, he's a homer, and I can't say he called it down the middle or that he was the best, you know, with analytical approach. But he was a homer, and if you love the team and if you have that soft spot, then he had it too. And he was great to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy Heinsohn is the Boston Celtics as a player, as a coach. And then obviously I think more people, the younger generation, just know Tommy Heinsohn as the broadcaster. Chirping out refs, the I love Walter chants, the little guy chants, really just giving nicknames to players that probably don't deserve nicknames, but came up big. He was just so much fun to watch as a Celtics fan, game in, game out. Really brought a lot of energy and entertainment to the game that was needed. And again, he's a Celtics legend, and it's sad to see him go.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll always remember as a kid, you know, just wanting to watch the games to see Tommy get mad at the refs. You know, you knew he was kind of a homer, but yeah, and I mean, we have a little bit of Tommy's best clips, kind of Tommy going a little bit nuts. This is what we all remember most from Tommy.
This is getting ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Pierce is down, and Pierce is hurt. He got hit in the mouth.
This is absolutely ridiculous.
Jim O'Brien is going after Scott Wall, and Jim O'Brien's been tossed out of the game.
This is ridiculous. And you could sense this from the very beginning of the ball game, that these guys are not with the program tonight. And I will tell you this, Paul Pierce, who is an upper echelon player in this league, has been treated like a rookie.
He's down at the other end. He's all right. Went down.
Walked.
That was...
He They're going to call it a hard foul. They're going to call it a hard foul. These guys are ridiculous. These guys.
So passionate about the game. It's almost funny to think about how much he was into it. And I mean, there you have it right there. I mean, he sounds great. And Tommy trying to stay around the team as much as he could, and such a role model for everyone. And had his imprints on so much here. It'll definitely be a huge loss for this organization.
Yeah, I guess my last point on Tommy, like all around the world, people have taken shots on a basketball court and said Kobe or Jordan. If you're from New England and you've saved a ball from going out of bounds, you've stood up and said Tommy Point. Like, he's synonymous with the franchise. And love him or hate him, I think that's probably what we'll remember, is just how much, if you grew up a Celtics fan, you know who Tommy Heinsohn is.
It's funny, too. The Tommy Points always go to, like, usually one of the worst players in the team.
Jerebko.
Yeah, Jerebko got a bunch. I mean, I think Marcus Smart probably has, I don't know, like 1,000 Tommy Points, but it's never like the best player. Like Jason Tatum always has like 5 Tommy Points at the end of the season. But it's just it's a different way to watch it, and it's also funny to think that he got away with saying so much because he's Tommy Heinsohn. He could say some of the worst things to refs, and the refs just laugh it off like, oh, it's just an old man. Like, it's all right. He could say whatever he wants. Whereas today, if you say anything like that, like, you get kicked out of the game. But that just brought so much, like, he is the Boston Celtics again, and it's sad to see him go. And I think moving forward, I mean, I think they said Scal's going to be the replacement. I mean, I like Scal, but he's no Tommy. I'm sorry. He's pretty boring. He's not he provides some analysis, but Tommy just was so much fun.
Scal's too boring. It's going to be really tough to replace Tommy Heinsohn. Just going berserk like that on refs, and it was always just so entertaining. The refs got to go home because nobody loves them here. Just all that stuff, and we're going to miss it a lot. But transitioning on to the other New England team here. Before we get into the Patriots, how about Alex Cora coming back in the middle of the night? The Red Sox sign him, as they always do. They have to sign someone when all the other news is going on. No one's paying attention to the Red Sox, and they've said they weren't going to do it. They bring Alex Cora back in a move that, I had to admit, I feel like this was going to happen for a long time. They've skirted around it, saying it wasn't going to happen, but guys, Alex Cora is back. What do we think about the Red Sox and the fact that they're just lying dogs?
Alex Cora, his first season as manager, pushed all the right buttons, and then came in with a questionable approach into the next year. And he won, 84 games with the exact same team running it back. So I'm glad he missed a year. He's a cheater. And I'm glad he's back. I have no problem with cheating in sports. So I'm glad we get to see kind of the rubber year. And I think guys like Bogarts, whom you hope re-signs here, I think he's going to have a lasting impact on those guys, and that's why you needed to bring him back.
I think he re-signed last year. He's here for the long term. I think the guys like J.D. Martinez that have an opt-out this year, I think he'll probably stick around this year in hopes that, because he was a big outscorer. He has to.
He didn't hit anything this year.
Yeah, but teams will still give him money. I mean, it's baseball. They'll pay freaking Brock Holt $10 million. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But it's just the Boston Red Sox, to me, it's a joke that it took that long to sign Alex Cora. Like, everyone knew he was coming back. Everyone's known it for a very long time. Like, it was well known that the manager last year was just a fill-in guy till the end of the year. It was just an old guy that was there, wasn't doing a damn thing. But Alex Cora was a good manager. It's just the way that the Red Sox go about it. It's just so annoying, and it's just the way that their ownership is. It's like, why do you have to announce that when everyone's paying attention, obviously, to everything going on in the world, the election and everything? Why can't you announce it before that? Why can't you give some praise to Alex Cora coming back? It's like you have to hide it. Like, Boston fans are going to be pissed off he's back. No, everyone was pissed that he left to begin with. Everyone likes Alex Cora. It's just the way the Red Sox do business.
This is an ownership group that sold you bricks, all right? This should not be a surprise.
Yeah, I want to get a panda doll. Is those things still being sold?
I'm sure. He's still getting paid.
Yeah, he's getting paid. He's still going to
is
KFC.
Manny Ramirez. I mean, they're still paying a lot of guys.
Oh, yeah. They're probably still paying Edgar Renteria. The list goes on.
But
Julio Lugo.
Here's the thing. So the best part about John Farrell is that he wasn't Bobby Valentine, because he showed himself eventually after a World Series to be a lame duck manager. And I'm just happy that we get to see, is the best thing about Cora that he relates to players and he can mix old baseball and analytics, or is the best part about him that he wasn't John Farrell at the end?
I think he had the buy-in from everybody.
Because
the
they
whole
were
team.
willing to buy into anything besides what their manager was. That's my point. They were so checked out with Farrell at the end. Don't lie to yourself.
No, I agree with
They
that.
definitely were.
I agree with that, but he brings that kind of, I don't know, like Ty Lue type mentality where, like, you know, he wasn't – Ty Lue was never a great player. Neither was Alex Cora, but he's been there.
The best coaches aren't usually.
Yeah, the utility guys. Like, he was a good player, and he has the buy-in from everybody on that team. Everyone respects him. He holds people accountable. And the most important thing, like you said, John Farrell kind of left people – pitchers, players out of the know. Are they going to start today? Are they going to play today? Alex Cora is very upfront and tells people when they're going to play. Players respect that.
You were just so tired of the BS by the end of Farrell. I mean, he just couldn't answer a question. And
it's just all political answer and everything.
So happy that you could just get a guy that would actually give you an answer, would put guys to the carpet, and call things the way that they were. It was like we were thirsting for Alex Cora.
And I also think, too, I think John Farrell got pretty lucky his first year. Like, that Red Sox team was not very good.
Those guys all had career years.
Yeah, I mean, like, who was
Victorino, Mike Napoli.
Yeah, all these guys. I mean, John Lester also carried us in the playoffs. Like, he was
Uehara.
Yeah, and then we lowballed him.
Yeah, John Lester. Yeah, exactly. And he got very lucky. I'm sorry. And then the next year we're in last place, and then the year after that we're middle of the pack. It's just, I want a team that's consistent. I want a team year in, year out, at least like competing for the playoffs. It's like every 2 years the Red Sox are the worst team in the division. And that's not how you operate a business or an organization, sorry. And they're the only team in Boston that does it like this. Like, the Celtics and Bruins have been consistent every year for a long period of time, and when they suck, they're going to suck for a couple years and then build it back up.
The Celtics had another team suck for them. That is very rare in sports. That's not fair. They had another organization suck for them.
Yeah.
Guys, Josh Dodd watching along on Facebook says the Red Sox will be bad for a long time. No pitching at the major leagues, minor leagues, or on the free agent market. Cora makes no difference. Do you guys think Cora will make a difference when he comes back to this team? Well, now that he is back with this team?
The biggest difference is going to be, we're going to be bad this year. He's right. Josh is right. But the following year, if Chris Sale can come back and be 200 innings and 15 wins, if Evaldi can be serviceable.
That's a large if.
Sure, but you signed him to a 5-year deal, so the expectation has to be that he will. Otherwise, it's a lame duck contract that we all think it is. But
the one thing that the Red Sox do have is last year it was all about getting under the salary tax. We have to get under that salary tax. Well, what the Red Sox do, what we've known for the past 20 years, is whatever their mission or whatever their goal was the year before, they always go back to what they did the year prior to that. So you know they're going to be spending money this offseason. And if they can get someone like a Trevor Bauer or another pitcher to come in, I'm not saying they're going to be the best team in the AL, but their lineup as a whole, with Bogarts, Devers, JD Martinez, that's a pretty damn good 3, 4, 5. And if you can get some other guys to come in and play, I'm not saying they're going to win the championship, but they're not going to be the worst team in the league. And I think there's a chance they can win a wild card position. Just saying that they need pitching, though. It's an absolute joke. I couldn't have named one pitcher on the Red Sox this year.
Sign no one who requires a compensatory pick. You need those picks. You sucked for a reason. Use those picks.
Well, those players usually suck.
I would rather do what the Astros just did. I would rather do what the Braves just did.
Yeah, but
I'd rather do what the White Sox just did.
I understand.
If we sucked against our will, I'd rather use those picks than sign somebody who may or may not work and lose that pick.
It's hard to do that with this team built as it is, though. Like, if you want to do that, don't bring JD Martinez back. Like, if you want to do that, trade some of their good players and get them off the team. You can't just say that this is like the Patriots. If Bill refuses to suck, you need to go full rebuild. You can't go half-ass at it. You need to. That's what the Astros did. They sucked for 5 years. That's how they have all these great players. White Sox sucked forever. That's why they have all these great players.
Feels like Boston isn't a market where you can suck for 5 years. I mean, we get pissed when they suck for 2 straight years. You know, so can the Red Sox go through a full-scale rebuild?
The only team that can do it are the Celtics fans. They're like the most patient. They're the most willing to suck, and they just say, "Danny, oh, it's all right, Danny. Don't trade those picks." They're the only fan base in all of Boston that's content with being either subpar or sucking for a long period of time. Because they're like, well, the end goal is this. Red Sox fans, if you don't win this year, you're dead to them. It's just the way that fans are in Boston.
Red Sox fans are in their 60s. They're still going to watch no matter what.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot left. I mean, especially after last year. They definitely chased away a lot of them.
Can't say I watched one inning.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, obviously, we did not do the most coverage here on Open Season. I mean, we'd be talking about like the NFL Week 2 as there was like the World Series going on.
I wanted to talk Korean baseball over talking about the Red Sox at one point.
Well, be that as that may, let's get on to football talk. And the Patriots, well, they had to come back from down 10 in the fourth quarter to beat the Jets, guys. And I honestly can't say that without laughing. I mean, I don't know. I just kind of have like a funny face on, describing that game last night. It's almost feels like a joke where we should be able to run over a team like that. And, you got Joe Flacco just like throwing bombs at the end of the game. It's like Joe Flacco, that guy has always performed well against the Patriots. And, Cam and everybody celebrating as if it was like a playoff game. I mean, it's just like, I don't know what to take with this team. I mean, they get their third win of the season against a winless team in the Jets that's completely mismanaged. Does this move the needle for you guys at all? Do you think that they're going to make a charge to 9-7 or anything like that? How do you feel after last night's performance?
That celebration was scary. It was. It shows you where we are. But because we are there, I'm encouraged by the win. If we are a borderline 500 team and every win is going to be difficult, well, then I'm happy we pulled it out. I'm happy we didn't lose. Tanking's for the birds. It's not for a team coached by Bill Belichick. And if we got the first pick, I'm sure he'd trade it. So moving forward, I'm glad we won. I'm happy that Damian Harris looks as good as he does. And like I've always said, when our offensive line plays well, we're going to have a chance because our coaching is good enough.
I want the camera to zoom in to me. We are terrible. Terrible. The New York Jets, who've been blown out by every team, were up by 10 points. Except the Bucs, that one game. Nick Folk, I thought he was the biggest surprise because I thought he couldn't kick a field goal over 40 yards, but somehow he kicked a 52-yard field goal to end the game. I mean, from where I stand, he's better than Gostkowski at this point. But my God, we're relying on Cam Newton and Jacoby Myers. That is our offense. And the offense isn't what scares me. Our defense is pathetic. Pathetic. Joe Flacco owns us. He's always owned us, and that's because he's elite. Just like he said when they lost to the
elite
49ers.
Against us.
Yes, he owns Bill Belichick. He always has, and he looked like Joe Montana last night against us in the first half, and that is terrifying.
He looked
J.C. Jackson got burnt.
That's very scary to think.
Stephon Gilmore was sitting at home laughing things up, being like, I got to get a little more cash here. Stephon Gilmore is making sure that he doesn't get injured anymore, and he's missed the last couple games, and obviously the Pats haven't looked too good without him. I'm tired of all this Cam stuff. I mean, I feel like Cam still just like is still so hesitant with the ball, still can't do a whole lot. And why is it that the Pats only hit on wide receivers that are undrafted and used to be quarterbacks? Like Jacoby Myers used to be a quarterback. How come Bill Belichick is better at evaluating quarterbacks at the wide receiver position than an actual wide receiver? I don't get it.
Because those guys can run option routes because they see the game like a quarterback, and that's better for his system. He's a system guy. He's not going to draft Dez Bryant. He's not going to draft DK Metcalf. And you can argue to the cows come home whether or not that's
he
the
tried
right decision.
to last year, though. They tried to draft a guy like that.
But, again, they drafted N'Keal Harry because he's a red zone threat, because he's a bigger target, because Brady's older. They, again, drafted him because of what they thought he could do, not because they thought he was the best player at that position. Goes back to Baldwin and Julio Jones. I mean, he always thinks in value, and at that position you really shouldn't. And he's honestly made that position a little obsolete anyway, because the previous Super Bowl champions have really won without them. But, God, to have anybody else, to have one of those tight ends hit, to just Jacoby Myers is fine, but N'Keal Harry's terrible. That's an awful pick. Sony Michel might not see the field the rest of the season.
I'd rather see Gunnar Oskowski playing right now than N'Keal Harry. Whatever the hell his name is, put him out there. The guy can run routes. N'Keal Harry is a freaking joke. I don't think you could get a 5th-round draft pick for N'Keal Harry at this point in his career. He's 23. He was a first-round pick, and he is terrible. He cannot get off the line of scrimmage. Jacoby Myers, for what he is, he's a guy that should not be getting 15 targets a game, but he plays the Jabbar Gaffney role pretty well, where he gets 4 catches a game for like 40 yards, but when you throw it to him, he gets open, he makes the catches. He's not going to run for a touchdown, get a 60-yard bomb, but he's a good possession receiver. He'd be a great 3 or 4 guy, not your number 1 guy. And this is where Belichick has failed year after year after year of drafting offensive weapons. It's pathetic. And to think he's a defensive-minded guy, why can't we have someone else that is an offensive-minded guy come in and help draft some of these positions?
Can't they just like look at combine tape, for Christ's sake? It's like they get all these receivers that are so slow. It's like you had N'Keal Harry, who's like one of the slowest receivers in the game, and then you bring in Jacoby Myers, a guy that's really slow too. It's like, can't we just play someone who's a bit faster out there? I mean, Jacoby Myers, for being an undrafted guy, a former quarterback, he's obviously getting the job done as well as he can. But I mean, I just feel like, for Christ's sake, like at least get somebody that can run under a 4.5 at some point. I mean, for God's sake.
But that guy might not run option routes. That guy might not play at our scheme.
Or he wasn't a captain in college or whatever.
Didn't go to Navy. There are certain or Rutgers. There are certain prerequisites. And I wanted to get back to something. So you said J.C. Jackson was scary to watch. He got toasted. He's a number 2 corner.
Agreed.
He's not supposed to be.
Well, I think a lot of people here were hoping that he was something more than that.
He's an undrafted guy. They're hoping he was going to be like Malcolm Butler, and he's not.
Who's also a number 2, possibly at this point number 3 corner.
Yep, I agree.
Malcolm Butler had one. He had one play and followed it up with one top-of-the-line elite quarterback play. Outside of that, he's been a number 2 quarter at best. J.C. Jackson is handsy. He's going to get penalties. He's a Brandon Browner, not size-wise, but just he's a second corner who's handsy and physical and plays the bump and run.
Malcolm Butler's his first year as an actual starter was pretty good.
He was a Pro Bowl. He was a Pro Bowler that year.
His second year, then it just went all downhill.
It was horrible.
Yes. He had like pretty much a McCourty year. His first year was phenomenal, and then God knows he can't play cornerback ever again. But
the second they had tape on him.
Yeah, exactly. So, I got nothing to say on the Patriots. I mean, I honestly at this point I want them to lose every single game. I want them to be the worst team in the NFL.
8-8.
They're not going to tank.
I know that's what the painful thing is. Like when I went to bed, they were losing by 10.5. I'm like, yes, we're gonna lose to the Jets. I don't care if New England fans are like, fire Bill, he sucks. I want them to lose every single game. I want them to rebuild this whole entire thing from scratch because it's like being in the NBA, being the 8th seed. It's like you're never going to get anywhere. Rebuild it, start from scratch. Hopefully you get a top 5, top 7 pick and get a franchise quarterback and go in that direction because this team sucks.
But, I mean, do you even trust Bill Belichick to be able to pick that quarterback at this point?
I think Josh McDaniels, actually, he's not very good at drafting quarterbacks either. I mean, you
Tim
draft
Tebow in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, you have to bring somebody else in that is like a younger-minded. You always hear about these young coaches that are offensive like geniuses coming out either in college or in the NFL. Where are those guys for the Patriots? Like, I mean, we bring in these guys like Patricia was like a civil engineer or something. Like, I mean, he's in like aerospace and shit. I mean, he's a good defensive coordinator, kind of. Terrible head coach. McDaniels, I don't think will ever be a head coach. These guys aren't offensive guys. We need offensive guys to come in and actually like make an impact because when you watch the Patriots, McDaniels, for what he is, everyone says he's an offensive genius. When you watch his play calls during like say they get like maybe a first down or 2, how many times do they try to run this stupid sneak play or like this dumb on 3rd and 8, they do a handoff and they get 2 yards? I mean, I think he's probably the most overrated offensive guy in the entire league.
I think he does a lot for not having a lot, but I mean, I don't trust them to be able to make the evaluation even if they get these quarterbacks. And even for teams that have gotten the quarterbacks, like if you look at it, teams that have gotten like the top 1 overall pick or whatever, these quarterbacks haven't necessarily led teams to the playoffs or anything like that. So it's tough. You got to be able to select the right guy, and I feel like, the last team that can do it right now at this point has been the Patriots in terms of being able to get skill guys.
Well, he drafted Garoppolo, and that looked like it would have worked here.
Yeah, but I mean, don't you think Garoppolo would have fallen to us? Like, that wasn't necessarily like an amazing pick.
Sure, but it was a second-round pick, and he got a guy that looked like it would work here. So that was just, do you trust him to make the pick?
that was actually a pretty good pick.
Secondly, reports are, and take reports with as many grains of salt as you want to, that he was in on Lamar Jackson, he was in on Baker Mayfield.
All right, well, before we have to get into Baker Mayfield and Lamar Jackson chatter, we got one on the line. Who do we got?
Hey, it's Alex from Framingham.
Yo, Alex, what's going on?
Not much, guys, not much. I heard you talking about the Pats and them, drafting a quarterback, and I feel like it's a no-brainer to tank. I can't believe they didn't just lay down and die against the Jets. Can you believe they're just going to let the Jets ruin the career of the best quarterback prospect to come along in 20 years? It's driving me crazy. I don't get it.
The coach is David Card, the best prospect since John Elway. It happens. And at the end of the day, I can't believe you're surprised that we didn't roll over and die. We're coached by Bill Belichick, you know. There's no Adam Gase here.
Yeah. It might be more me being upset than surprised. I think I'm just very upset. Like, I get it. You want to prove that you can win without Tom, because that's really what Bill's probably got more pressure on him than Tom does now. I think 100%.
Yeah, definitely with the way that things have started out, it's pretty much gone quickly. You now have people in Boston questioning, you know, what Bill Belichick's role obviously was in all the Super Bowls now that, and I think, you know, you're looking at both guys to see who's going to win one first, Tom Brady or Bill. And I think that obviously Belichick is thinking a lot about this when he makes his moves. I mean, they're not going to tank because he's still got he's still trying to chase after Shula's record, I think. And I feel like, you know, they're not going to just tank. They're still going to try to go 8-8 or whatever, and it's definitely frustrating because they don't have the talent to be a good team.
I honestly think go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I honestly think Tom Brady's got more pressure on him at this point of the season than Bill Belichick does. And I say that because at this point, if the Bucs don't win a Super Bowl, it's a failure. The Patriots right now, there are zero expectations for them right now. They are so bad that if they get to 6-7 wins, that's a successful season. Brady needs to win a Super Bowl or it's a failure.
I disagree. I think you thought that Belichick, at least having Belichick, good coaching and good organization, was going to get you like 9-10 wins. I think that was a lot of people's expectation around here. You don't think that people think that Belichick's worth that much?
Yeah, this goes back to the Bulls trying to getting rid of Michael Jordan and Scotty at the end of their run. It's really the same. It's going to be the same conversation. I guess a little bit different. But Belichick, obviously from a coach standpoint, and Belichick from a GM standpoint, I do believe are two different guys. But letting Tom Brady walk, and I don't think we have a shot at winning a Super Bowl over the next 3, 4, 5 years. We might never even get to the big dance again. I mean, not the next 10 years in the rest of Belichick's time. I wouldn't be shocked at all.
I agree with you.
I find that hard to believe. I honestly think you bring Antonio Brown in, you bring Gronk in this year. This is a 1 year, you got to win it all type thing because AB will not be back. He might be, but Gronk probably won't be back. This is a 1 year thing. Godwin's going to want to get paid next year. All those defensive linebackers that are really young are going to want to get paid next year. This is a 1 year thing. If he does not win this year, I do not see him winning.
They're all on rookie deals, all those young linebackers. Devin White.
Some of those guys have been.
He's not getting paid yet.
Some of those guys have been in the league for a couple years now. Devin White, he got drafted last year, but some of those other linebackers.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's the one that's going to command the biggest salary. A lot of these other guys, though, I think that the Bucs team is built for the future, really, on defense. Whereas their offense, I mean, they just have to shore up that O-line a little bit more. Their defensive coaching, I think, is pretty dreadful, though. I think the talent's there. I just don't see the coaching on the defensive side of the ball, though.
It's world-renowned defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Todd Bowles.
The
guy that you guys you've never seen him smile, make a comment, or anything, and the entire time he's been on the sidelines.
No.
Yeah, well,
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely kind of frustrating that they won't just go all the way in the tank, or at least go all the way. At least try to make a maneuver at. All they did was bring in a couple Isaiahs at the trade deadline. A couple 7th round picks and stuff like that. So it's like make one maneuver either way. Either sell parts off or make a trade to compete. But it feels like. I definitely think that Bill Belichick's under a lot more pressure because I think that, if Tom Brady went 8-8 or anything, you would just say he's 43 years old and he's already created his legacy. Whereas Bill Belichick still has to prove that he's a good coach aside from Tom Brady.
I think he gets a pass this year, honestly. I really do. I think at the end of the day, if the Pats, I'm thinking next year is the big thing. If Brady wins the Super Bowl this year, then
didn't you think the Pats would be 8-8, 9-7 at least this year, just having Bill Belichick as part of the team, though?
I thought they'd win 10 games.
Probably, yeah. But
So it is like a
Anyone who
disappointment.
says otherwise is a
Yeah.
lying asshole.
That's what I think too.
But why is it so? If Brady loses in the first round and the Pats go 6-10, who is a worse? Who's the bigger disappointment?
The Pats.
No, they're not. The Buccaneers have to go to the Super Bowl. They have to.
Why do they have to go to the Super Bowl?
Look at this team. It's a super team. They're supposed to win every game.
The Pats would have a winning record if Brady was there.
That is
100%. Yes.
We had this argument last week.
Yes.
That's not true.
That's not true.
That's fundamentally not true.
whatsoever.
So Tom Brady
They would
can't
have
beat
a winning record.
Tom Brady.
They
can't
would have
beat-
won the Denver game.
Stop. Tom Brady can't beat good teams with a good supporting cast, and he's going to beat good teams with nothing. That doesn't make any sense. Sorry.
You don't
With
think
nothing.
he's
He looked
significantly
pretty good
better than
last year
Cam
with
Newton?
nothing.
He didn't
He
look
had the
good last
same
year with
offense
nothing.
Last year.
He didn't
He
look
had
good
the
last
same
year.
offense
We lost.
last year that he has this year. The offense last year might have been worse than the offense this year.
Agreed.
What are you? All right. Come on, man.
Who did they have? Who did they have last year?
Edelman was
fully
fully healthy last year. They brought in Sanu. They brought in AB for.
Sanu can't even
Oh,
play in
They,
the
they,
NFL.
they had Josh Gordon for the first
oh,
6 games of the year.
Josh Gordon. Oh my
Oh,
God.
my God.
Can you guys name
Wow.
one receiver outside Jacoby Myers right now on the Patriots?
Dude, I could
Come
list
on,
Damiere Byrd.
I can be here all
yeah.
day.
Damiere
N'Keal
Byrd is more
Harry,
trustable.
Damiere Byrd.
Is more trustable than Josh Gordon. Josh
my-
Gordon is guaranteed to be off your
Frank,
team.
Frank, save me here. Come on, this is just the most
I don't
asinine.
really know how to debate this because I had this argument already. Tom Brady needs help, and there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of his career, Favre needed help. Peyton needed help. Guys need help at the end of
Big
their
Ben
career.
needs help right
he
now.
has no help here. And to think that he would win more games than a bad Cam Newton, I have news for you. With him not being able to get out of the pocket, he would not be doing jack. And for the record, he'd have no receivers in the circle of trust anymore, so he wouldn't be throwing it to anyone. All right, N'Keal Harry wouldn't
But
be
he'd
able to
have
see any targets.
chemistry. He'd have
How?
He'd
Because
have the veil. He'd have the veil of invincibility of the Patriots.
Did he have that last year
He would
for the
have a
last
lot
8 games?
more going on.
Yeah, and he was 12-4 last year.
The
I mean,
defense carried them the first 8 games
They
of the
lost.
season.
We lost every game that we allowed more than 17 points. And as soon as we didn't go against a historically
he still
easy
had
schedule,
4,200
we were
yards
bad.
and 24 touchdowns.
As soon as we didn't go against a historically easy schedule, the first 8 games, we were not good. Brady was not good. That completes 3
they were still
straight seasons.
4-4. Wouldn't you beg for that right
No.
now?
No.
Why do you?
And he's
why-
declined the last 3
why-
years in the second
why
half of
does
the season.
everybody want to go like 8-8 this year? I
and
don't
we wouldn't do that with
understand.
Brady anyway.
You thought that the Pats would
I
be
get-
at least
I-
8-8 this year.
I thought
just
10-10.
having Belichick as part of the team, so it's a disappointment
I
if they're.
agree, but why do you want to go not make the playoffs and go be like the like at the end of the day? And you're looking next year. Would you rather have the 16th pick or the 7th pick?
This team for the last 20 years has tried to be the most competitive team every year. They never take these years off. They always try to field the most competitive product and have placed like that above even the Super Bowls.
So you think the Patriots should never have a bad year?
That's what they've tried to do over the last 20. I don't know why
20, yeah, exactly, 20.
But Bill, also, can't he be wrong? It's possible that he thought going into this season that either Stidham would take a step forward or that he could win with Brian Hoyer. And for the record, that one game with Brian Hoyer, if Brian Hoyer didn't crap his pants in the red zone, he moved the ball just fine. Bill was half right. He could move the ball between the 20s with
For
Brian
like a
Hoyer
quarter.
just fine. For like 3 quarters, he
Yeah.
was good in between the 20s.
He just didn't know how many
And then he
timeouts he
didn't
had.
know how to score or do anything inside. If we had just kicked field goals that game, we might have won. If Cam Newton doesn't get coronavirus, we probably have a better record. But with Tom Brady, we have about the same record. This is about coaching, and we kind of gave up a whole game because of missing our quarterback. That Denver game, we pretty much came in with no game plan. We were pissed off, and we lost an entire game because Brian Hoyer crapped down his leg. So we have those 2 wins. We're about where we'd be with Brady. And
Alex,
that's,
I
again,
wish
more
you were
about-
here. This is terrible. This is terrible.
I'm going crazy. Just listening to this.
I don't know. I don't know how I'm supposed to deal with this. I just got Justin to say that he thought that Belichick was going to win 8 or 9 games, and now that he's won 3 games, that should be a disappointment. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm taking crazy pills over here.
It's just not his
Yep,
quarterback's
yep,
fault.
Taking crazy pills, man. Taking crazy pills.
Yep.
They wouldn't be any better without Tom Brady on this team. I mean, Tom Brady isn't significantly better than Cam Newton, who's thrown 3 touchdowns and 7 picks. You don't think if you put in Brady,
You sound like a spoiled New England sports fan.
Oh my God! How dare you, Justin? How dare
That's
you?
exactly what you sound like. Like no team can ever have a bad season. Like it's just like every year
You're allowed to have a bad season, but it's a disappointment if it is.
Okay, it's a disappointment, but like Tom Brady being here, we're maybe 4-4. I don't understand like what the difference is. You're 4-4. You're 500.
You're at least competing in this AFC.
Really, because the Dolphins still have more talent than we do on both sides of the ball. The Bills have more talent than we do on both sides of the ball, even if Tom Brady's here. So what are you talking about?
You wouldn't trust the Pats more against the Bills with Tom Brady
The
as your
defense
quarterback?
is the biggest problem on this team. It's not the offense. So when the defense lets up 24 points in a game, this offense struggles to get 20 points, even if Tom Brady's here. Just like Frank said, how many games did we lose last year when the defense let up over 17?
Everyone.
Exactly. So I don't know what you guys drugs you're smoking. Like it's Tom Brady looks phenomenal. Yeah, he has the best offensive talent around him in the NFL. And he looked terrible last week. So let's talk about that.
One bad week.
Oh, one bad week. How about the Bears? How about the Giants? How about the Jets?
Whose fault is that bad week? That was the worst play calling I've ever seen.
Oh, now
Tom
it's the
Brady
play
have to do
calling.
it.
Now it's
Go
the play
deep every
calling.
play. Go
Really?
deep every play.
Really?
Go deep every play.
Yep. It's
It
the
was
play
gross.
calling now.
It was disgusting.
You knew
and it's not Tom's fault that they lost that bad. That's coaching right there.
You knew the Patriots or you knew the Bucs offense with Bruce Arians is going to be a vertical threat. That's what it is. All of a sudden now it's not working after one game. Give me a break. They tried to force feed Antonio Brown the ball over and over and over again.
Yeah, why did they force feed Antonio Brown the ball?
How is
Tom
AB
Brady
looking
gets what
so
he
far?
wants. No, don't say that. AB looked good. For a guy who hasn't played football, who's 30 and hasn't played in a year, he looked great. But why'd you force him the ball? To the detriment of the chemistry of your offense.
I don't know. They tried to force him the ball in that one game with the Pats last year, and he looked phenomenal. What happened this week?
I totally disagree. They didn't really try to force him the ball at all.
All the interceptions were to targeting Antonio Brown. Come on, Alex.
They did not. That's 100% not true. One interception was thrown at Gronk. One interception was off a fucking excuse my language, guys. Was off a batted pass on a screen. Like I forgot what the last one was, but I don't.
AB
think
stopping on his route and him throwing it
it.
into double coverage. That's what the last one was.
Well, hey, Alex, we could go all night with you here. I mean, it feels like you're right back on the panel. No. It feels like you're back on the panel, and honestly, right now, I wish you were. I mean, it's tough arguing with these two guys, but we appreciate you calling in tonight, and we'll talk to you soon, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Talk soon. Bye.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, we did kind of the full sale. Obviously, we did our weekly, fight about Brady and Belichick. So we'll put that in the past. But are we now looking at the Saints as the best team in the NFC, guys?
They look good. The NFC, for the first time in years, I feel like the top three teams are in the AFC, not the NFC. That feels weird to say. I think every team in the NFC has like a glaring hole, which is weird to say. I like the Saints a lot. I think they're probably the most complete team in the NFC. They have the best coach-quarterback combination, probably. I think the best team in the NFC, but I don't know what that means. I think the Super Bowl champion's coming out of the AFC.
I think the best team in the NFC to date. I know they played a terrible game against the Bucs, but I still think it's the Packers. Their secondary is legit. When Devontae Adams is healthy, I mean, he's 24 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Jones, when healthy, he's been out for a couple games. They're still steamrolling teams. They have a decent offensive line. Defensive line they have good interior defensive linemen. The outside is kind of iffy, but their linebackers are good. They have
Preston Smith?
Yeah.
Zendarius?
Yeah, whatever his name is. But they have a top 5 cornerback in the league in Alexander. He is a shutdown corner. And I think if they, go away from what they tried to do last year, they got steamrolled by the 49ers in the playoffs. But they were 14-2 going into that game.
All those teams that can steamroll them the way the 49ers did are in the AFC. The Seahawks can't do that. The Seahawks actually might be able to do that if both their running backs are healthy. If they have Hyde and Carson, maybe those guys can run over them like that. But most teams in the NFC can't do that. The Bucs can't really do that.
They could if they actually gave the ball to Ronald Jones instead of Leonard Fournette.
you guys know how I feel about
I'm
Rojo
just saying,
Jojo.
if if Tom Brady didn't throw the ball 45 times a game, ran the ball, I think they could easily. Oh, they already did. They crushed the Packers.
Yeah, to the whole no rush attempts and worst play calling ever. Brady is one of the 5 quarterbacks in the league that can pretty much walk up to the line and change the play to whatever he wants.
Of course he can.
So I mean, so we're just gonna say Bruce Arians' play calling was awful and not.
But are all those guys on the same page?
No,
where they can make that type of adjustment at this point.
Why
no.
not?
They're not
I'm
fully
just
there
saying,
yet.
all the guys like playing with the first week with Antonio Brown. Does he know all the offensive checks already and stuff like
That's
that?
just one guy, though. How many games are we in the season now?
AB might know as much as the other
games.
receivers, but he's never had 16 games with any of these guys.
I agree.
So there's plenty of that. There's plenty of room to grow. I just love calling it like I see it at the moment, because right now it looks like he went to a super team in an abridged offseason and can't quite get the chemistry there. He should be able to call 6-7 options, audibles at the line of scrimmage for him to be his best, and no, he's not there with probably any of his offense at the moment. That's part of their problem.
You guys keep saying super team is like a bad thing. Shouldn't you be trying to do everything you can to put the best weapons around? I mean, don't you pat Tampa Bay on the back for doing whatever it is to make a guy like they're trying to make that marriage work, and you put the best pieces around Tom Brady? I mean,
in the NBA, yes. In the NFL, scheme and fit matter, and if you're not Michael Irving or Jerry Rice, that X receiver, not entirely necessary. You got like 3 of them. Have one, maybe get a corner, maybe trade for Gilmore, maybe don't sign Brown. There are other things I would have been more happy. And no, you never discourage a team for trying to go all in. They are clearly trying to win right now with a 43-year-old quarterback. That's commendable. I am all for telling them they did it wrong. They don't need that. They already had that much talent on offense, but you telling me you couldn't package a receiver and a pick for offensive line and corner help? Like there's not shit teams in the NFL where they can unload some of those guys. Like they wouldn't have been in on Gilmore. Not that we might have not traded him to them, but those are the moves they should have been in on. Not AB, not Fournette and McCoy, and all these things were dressing. They were all frosting. None of those were ingredients for the cake.
It's a good way to put it. Yeah, no, I mean, I think the Bucks are going to go to the NFC Championship game, and if it's against the Saints, it's a toss-up. I mean, are the Bucks 0-2 against them this year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ooh.
5 of his 7 picks.
This is the first time Brady's ever been swept by a division opponent in 20 years.
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing. What a stat.
I mean, let's just call it what it is. The last 2 weeks have not looked good. They barely beat the Giants, and last week didn't look good. I still think at the end of the day, I trust the ball in Brady's hands over pretty much anyone but Mahomes and maybe Russell Wilson at this point. But we'll see. I do think the Saints are a very, very good team. Let's see how far Drew Brees goes. I don't think Drew Brees is having a great season. He's having a good season. I think Aaron Rodgers is having an MVP season, and I think that is why potentially the Packers could get past the Saints.
Yeah, one thing I want to toss in here from Josh Dodd, who's watching along and playing some good stuff. Says the NFL has no dominant teams, guys. Chiefs are saved by a generational quarterback that masked terrible line play. Saints look good, but Brees' average depth of target is like 5 yards. Can that win if they get behind in the playoffs? And I was actually, thinking of the same thing. That Saints team looks pretty good, but I feel like Drew Brees can't really throw downfield. And if you can kind of clamp down on them, are they going to be as big of a threat in the playoffs?
This no elite team in the league thing has probably been the case since I think that Eagles Super Bowl. I just think every team in the league, because there's so many specialists and athletes, have more bad games. There's less football players on your roster. There's more specialists and more teams have bad games. I believe that the Chiefs are probably the closest thing to a complete team, but you're right. That offensive line is terrible. And I just feel that every team in the league has that gaping hole. My problem with the Saints is Drew Brees throws it, again, 5 yards is what he said. That's probably not the stat, but it looks like that. Alvin Kamara, however, is having an MVP caliber season, and Michael Thomas hasn't been there. So can that team win from behind? No, but can they never be behind more than 10 points? Because they can probably come back from 10. I don't think any team in the NFL is built to come from behind except maybe the Steelers and the Chiefs. Most of those teams aren't built to come from behind.
Maybe Tennessee, too.
Are they?
Tennessee's come back a lot.
But if they're
year,
down by
like
3 touchdowns, can you give Derrick Henry all those touches?
Guys, the most complete team in the NFL right now, even though they had a bad week, is the Steelers.
Sure.
100%. Because their game plan can work against a lot of these elite offenses. If they just run the ball the entire time and they put pressure on Drew Brees, put pressure on Tom Brady in his face all game, I hate to break it to you, but it's not going to be good. I guarantee you that Brady would rather play the Chiefs than the Steelers. because I don't see there's
no question
I don't see
about
the
that.
Buccaneers scoring over 24 points against the Steelers. That recipe is a disaster for Tom Brady, and that's how he's lost in the Super Bowls.
I was just going to say, they're like the
you're in his
Giants.
face. You're the old school Ravens with Ray Lewis and Suggs in his face all game. That is a recipe for disaster. And Ben Roethlisberger has been playing good enough, not an elite offense, or not elite, but he's playing good enough.
Hold that thought, Justin. We got a caller on the line. Is it Whitey?
Damn right it's Whitey.
That's right. We're talking Pittsburgh. How you doing, man?
My ears were burning. Yo, where's Torty, by the way? Kid's slacking over there.
Yeah, he's taking a little bit of a step back. Going back to the caller role.
Oh, that was him that called about the Pats earlier?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe I can replace him on the show full time. Give my Pats takes regularly on a weekly basis.
Yeah, see, he had us hot and bothered about Bill and Brady. Well, I mean, he was taking my side again, which was great to have him back.
Whitey, I don't think you and I have ever been more aligned in any sports. We both think the Patriots are terrible, and we both think the Steelers are elite.
Yeah, I mean,
not this week though. Showed a little.
I think we're on the same page with baseball too. I mean, you guys are talking about Alex Cora, but do you realize does it even matter who's manager nowadays? It's all analytics. It's all the analytics department making all the moves. The managers are just puppets nowadays.
I agree for the most part, but
baseball is run by nerds.
I think Cora leaves Snell in, though. I think that's why Cora has value as a manager.
I think his best value is the fact that he's Hispanic and can communicate with all the Hispanic players. I mean, what really do managers do now? I mean, the front office decides all. They basically decide every move before the game. It's watching two sets of nerds play chess against each other. It's not like real baseball anymore.
Billy Beane has kind of ruined baseball.
I agree.
For what it is.
Baseball's been ruined by the nerds. It's strikeout, homer, or walk.
Bring the roids back in. Let them all juice up. I want to see home runs. I don't want to see 8 pitchers in 3 innings.
107-mile-an-hour pitches and 700-foot home runs. Bring the roids back.
I don't even think the roids have anything to do with it. They're hitting more home runs now than in the steroid era because the baseballs are juiced and it's all about launch angle now.
But they're putting less balls in play, which is why it's so easy to flip the channel and come back and nothing's happened.
No, 100%. I mean, analytics have ruined baseball. It was really this year was particularly tough for me. I mean, it was even elevated this year. But yeah, I wanted to weigh in on the Steelers being the most complete team. I know everyone's freaking out. I was freaking out at the time. The fact that they let the Cowboys even play with them. It was. I mean, this is how the Steelers have been for the last 15 years. They always do poorly on the road when they're a favorite. I mean, this happens. The only difference is this year they actually won. As opposed to previous years, they would take these L's left and right whenever they're a favorite on the road.
Yeah, I mean, they beat the Cowboys. I mean, I think they should have crushed the Cowboys, but they did show resiliency. And Big Ben, I think he got crushed in the poor halftime, and you could see how much pain he was in. He's still slinging it. I mean,
it's about as impressive as the Pats beating the Jets.
I mean, if that was if that last sequence in the first half was not vintage Big Ben, I don't think I've seen vintage Big Ben ever since that sequence. He was basically limping around. He could not even walk, and he just threw dimes. Both of his knees are injured. He just threw a dime to James Washington, and the fact is that the real reason why the Steelers struggled was because their special teams was horrendous. They missed 2 extra points, which is a big deal in that game in that time. They gave up a 60-yard kickoff return. Remember that kickoff return where the Cowboys player lateraled across the other side of the field and they ran up the field 60 yards?
Yep.
And then they had a punt return that they took back 70 yards. So that directly led to points along with the 2 extra point misses. So that's that was the only reason why the Cowboys were even in the game, to be frankly. I mean, they could have easily blown them out. What the Steelers' problem is slow first-half starts. And the reason is because their offensive coordinator, Randy Fichtner, this guy sucks. He's basically trying to force the Steelers to be a run team when they're not built that way. Their offensive line is great in pass protection. They're not a great running offensive line. I mean, you see James Conner. He routinely gets like 2 yards of carry. They hand it off 2 times, and then now they're facing 3rd and 6, and they have to punt. So then basically when Big Ben abandons that and he starts calling plays for himself, he marches up and down the field like, left and right. So, I mean, I wouldn't freak out about this. They should have destroyed the Cowboys, but I still think they're the most complete team. I mean, obviously Pat Mahomes he's clearly, I think at this point he's clearly the MVP. I mean, Russell Wilson had a good story going, but after that bad game, he also had a bad game against the Cardinals.
Oh, come on. You don't think Russell's still the MVP? He's on pace to throw 56 touchdowns this year, Whitey.
Yeah, but Pat Mahomes has 25 touchdowns, 1 pick, and he hasn't had one bad game.
He had a bad game against the Pats.
You don't think Russell Wilson needs to do more for the Seahawks to win than Pat Mahomes needs to do for the Chiefs?
Well, I think it's very similar. I think both Russell Wilson and Pat Mahomes are both the 2 best quarterbacks in the league by far. But I just think you have to go with the team with the better record and the quarterback who's had less bad games. I mean, Russell Wilson had a bad game this past week. Pat Mahomes has not had a bad game, really. I mean, he has 1 pick the entire year, and he's never fumbled either. He only has 1 turnover. It's absolutely crazy.
Who was the backup quarterback last year for the Chiefs when Mahomes got hurt and he actually went 2-1?
Is it Matt Moore?
Matt Moore.
Matt Moore.
He's a great backup.
You can't tell me Matt Moore
could
could come into the Seahawks and go 2-1. I feel like Mahomes is a better quarterback. I feel like the Chiefs have more talent on both sides of the ball, especially on defense. The Seahawks defense is terrible. But the Chiefs actually have a good defensive line and pretty good linebackers, and Tyrann Mathieu, is still elite. But if Moore can go 2-1, I think Russell Wilson has more value to his team than Mahomes does.
Yeah, I mean, give me Russell Wilson for the MVP. I mean, he's been the wire-to-wire favorite. He leads the NFL in touchdowns, and he's 4th in yards in just 8 games. I mean, like I said before, he's on pace to throw 56 touchdowns. So, I mean, obviously Pat Mahomes is amazing, and he's got an arm like nobody else in the league, but I feel like this year is Russell's year to win it.
Russell Wilson went from -117 to +125. Now he's still the Vegas favorite, but that's quite a switch from just 1 game.
Yeah.
And I understand that he is in fact doing far more than anybody else in this discussion. He has less to work with on both sides of the ball than Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes. But at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes has yet to have a game where he costs his team the game. And Aaron Rodgers cost his team Tampa Bay because he had no fight. He did that 1 celebration and then peed down his leg. And Russell Wilson cost his team that game in Buffalo. Patrick Mahomes has cost 0, and Ben Roethlisberger has almost cost his team 2 games. Patrick Mahomes has cost his team nothing. He played bad against the Patriots and won that game by 16 points.
Josh Allen looked like an MVP candidate this weekend against the Seahawks defense. So you can't say that Russell Wilson, granted, he didn't have his best game, but, I mean, Josh Allen couldn't throw crap against the Patriots defense. That is not good. Let's just face it. And then this week, he looked like an MVP candidate against the Seahawks. I mean, everyone looks like an MVP candidate against the Seahawks.
Cam Newton had us all talking about signing him to a $100 million contract after he played the Seahawks.
Just shows Russell Wilson needs to score over 30 points every game to win.
Yeah, I would agree. But when you think about the Chiefs, you never really think of defense. I mean, you just don't. But we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. But I just wanted to, before I leave you guys, I just can't believe that no one's talking about Big Ben and Mike Tomlin in the same way that people talk about, Belichick, Brady, Breeze, Peyton. Do you realize Big Ben, 17 years in the league, not 1 losing season? Mike Tomlin gets hired when he was 34 years old, basically our age. He's like a year older than me. Frank, I'm not sure how old you are, but me, Billy, and Allain were 33. 14 straight seasons without a losing record. I mean, and then with Big Ben just passed Montana for 4th all time in 4th quarter comebacks. So only Breeze, Manning, and Brady have more. So I just feel like the Big Ben Tomlin conversation does not happen. I feel like this year it has to start having more often.
I kind of feel like if the Patriots didn't exist, you would have those conversations all over the place because they would have won all those titles. It was like the Patriots were kind of always in their way of them getting their due, and the reason why they don't is because they don't have as much hardware as they should at the end of the day. But I mean, it's definitely worth mentioning.
Without the Patriots, like Big Ben, who knows how many rings he'd have? But
if they were in the NFC, they'd be thought of as greater than Peyton and Breeze, probably. Even though statistically, they wouldn't ever get there. Ben is never going to be Breeze statistically, but he's probably going to win more rings, and he would have certainly made more Super Bowls not having to go through us every other year, literally.
I don't even think it's just the Patriots, by the way. Like, I think they've choked in games, the Steelers I'm talking about, in playoff games and like divisional rounds where they should not have lost games, and it made it an easier run for the Patriots. I think like 2 years ago, weren't the Steelers favorites? I forget who they lost to in the playoffs when the Pats won the Super Bowl.
Jaguars.
Jaguars. They lost to Jaguars twice in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. They've choked. I think the reason why they're not is because they have choked in big games more than the Saints. I mean,
the Saints have years where they just take years off and miss the playoffs.
I go 7 and 9 or whatever.
I agree. I just think the Patriots have more they've won when they're expected to lose, or when they're expected to win, they win.
The only quarterback in NFL history to have more winning seasons than Big Ben is Brady. Big Ben has, when I say winning seasons, I mean seasons where you're either 8-8 or better. He has 17 of them. Like, Drew Brees has been on a bunch of teams with losing records. And, like, the thing with Brady is, like, Big Ben has had to deal with the Ravens his whole career. The Pats have never had a legitimate foe in the AFC East. They basically had a first-round bye every year. And Big Ben has always had to play either in the AFC wildcard game or, like, it's just because we have to deal with the Ravens. Like, you realize the Ravens is probably the third best franchise in the NFL over the last 20 years? It's like, and also these Steelers Ravens matchups, they're bloodbaths. So like, the people get hurt. I mean, it's just another thing I wanted to mention is Juju Smith-Schuster. I think I don't know if you guys watched that touchdown that he had against the Cowboys.
Yeah,
where basically he ran a beautiful route and then truck sticked two Cowboys defenders to get into the end zone. This kid is he's Heinz Ward 2.0. Like, he's so ridiculously strong. Remember when he truck sticked Vontae Burfict?
I don't remember that. I don't watch as intently as you do.
I think he's better than Heinz Ward at the end of his career. He's got more talent.
I mean, they're both the same type of receiver. They're not like really fast, but they run great routes and they're strong. They just run over DBs
and they block.
So, I think this team just with him, with Deontay Johnson, with Claypool, I don't know. This is like the first, honestly, guys, without Brady and the Patriots this year, for the first time in, since I've started rooting for the Steelers, the Patriots have always been a thorn. This is, I think, their best year. I think this is the year they can go because.
Yeah, but you still got Kansas City.
Yeah, but I mean, anything can happen, really. I mean, teams rarely make back-to-back Super Bowls.
I honestly think that, like, you're talking about. The Steelers running it a lot and getting like 2 yards a carry. I think that is the offensive mindset you need to have going into a game against the Chiefs. You need to run the ball, keep the ball away from Mahomes, and like you need to get better at that. So probably that's what they're trying to do. But I think the two biggest differences in this Steelers team than past couple of years, obviously Claypool, but I think Eric Ebron, like he's the most athletic tight end that he's probably ever had. He doesn't get the amount of catches and targets he should, but he's freaking probably a top 5 most athletic tight end in football. And I mean, he's a matchup nightmare. Everyone in that lineup's a matchup nightmare.
The only thing about Ebron is he chops a lot of passes. That's his weakness.
He's got horrible hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to harp back on Juju, do you realize Juju does not have one drop this entire year? He's been targeted 55 times, not one drop. That's another reason why I love Juju. Like, if you just have these playmakers, like if you have these playmaking wide receivers who can get open at the right time and have a veteran Hall of Fame quarterback, I just think, like Pat Mahomes is ridiculous, but I mean, it's football. Like, you saw the Titans, like, pretty much make a really crazy run last year. I mean, any team can get hot. The Chiefs can get knocked out. They've been down big in games before this year. So it's like, can Pat Mahomes keep, like, getting, like, taking a rabbit out of the hat, just like having these 21-point comebacks? I mean, how long can he keep doing that?
Yeah. Well, Whitey, we appreciate you calling in, man. We tried to let you get in as much as you could, and always bringing good Steelers stuff to the table for us. Steelers are definitely looking like the top team right now on both sides of the ball. So, we'll see what they can do. They stay undefeated against Dallas and live to fight another day. So we appreciate you calling in and chatting us up tonight, Whitey, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, fellas, keep the good content coming.
All right, my man. So, I mean, he pretty much got us into it, but we were going to debate the MVP. I mean, for me, it's got to be Russell Wilson, who's been the wire-to-wire favorite, leading the NFL in touchdowns, got 28 passing touchdowns in 8 games, and it just feels like he has to do so much for his team in order to win games. That defense has given away yards at a historic rate, and we saw Cam Newton throw for almost 400 yards against them, for Christ's sake. It takes him about 6 games to throw for 400 yards against everybody else. So, guys, who's your MVP at the end of the way?
It's Mahomes. I hate to say that. I really wish Mahomes had hiccups. I wish he had some of Manning against Belichick early in his career. I wish he had some of, waiting behind Favre for 5 years. Because unfortunately what's happened is he sat 1 year and he's been the best quarterback in the league every year that he's been a starter. And that's really annoying. But this year he has 0 bad games. 1 bad game in which he won by 2 scores.
I mean, I was going to go Cam Newton, but I guess we can't do that. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough to go against either of those, but I do. And the running back never gets it. He's never going to get it. But I do think Derrick Henry's what he does for the Titans. Without Derrick Henry, that team is a 500 team because Ryan Tannehill is a 500 quarterback without the ability to play action and having the defenses try to stack the box. I think Derrick Henry is by far the best running back in football this year.
Oh, Dalvin?
Dalvin Cook's having the best season, and don't leave Alvin Kamara out of MVP discussion for running backs.
I was just going to say, if we're going to talk about the best running back, we got to bring Dalvin in.
Okay. What's the Vikings record so far this year?
Like 3-4 or 3-5 or whatever.
The Titans I'm talking about MVP. Who's going to win MVP? It never goes to a bad team. I think Derrick Henry, again, Kamara gets a lot of credit, but he also has Breeze and a lot of other things. I think the Titans, that team, that he should get at least some looks, a couple votes. Again, it's hard to go against what you guys both did. I'm trying to sell everyone on Derrick Henry. He's not going to get it, but I think he should get some consideration.
He should definitely get more credit. I mean, we always talk about this, how it seems to be the most valuable quarterback award. It's like, what does a running back have to do? Adrian Peterson, the year he ran for 2,000 yards.
That's it. You have to rush.
But he still wasn't the MVP.
Yes, he was. He beat Peyton.
Yeah, he did. He won MVP.
You have to rush for 2,000 yards or set the touchdown record.
But like in the games that Derrick Henry plays bad, like the Steelers game, he still got like 60, 70 yards and a touchdown. Like for most running backs, that's like a good week.
That was a bad week for him. Him up, and you're like, we stopped him at 75 yards and a touch.
I mean, the Titans get far. If they go like 13-3, I think he should get a good amount of votes.
The last 2 running backs to win MVP, I think, are Sean Alexander and AP. So you have to tear your ACL in week 16 the prior year and then rush for 2,000 yards, or set the touchdown record and win. What did they win? 11 games and made it to the Super Bowl.
Those teams also had terrible quarterbacks. Not like Tannehill's not terrible, but he's not an elite quarterback. Like Matt Hasselbeck on the Seahawks was okay.
I have news for you. The last 16, even though he's been bad for 3 weeks, if you take the last 18 games of Ryan Tannehill, he's been better than
112 passer rating or something.
Better than anything Hasselbeck ever was for that same sample
Take Henry
size.
Out for a game. I'd like to see his QBR.
Okay.
I like when he's in shotgun, like 3 of the 4 downs every single possession. I think he's throwing 2 interceptions. He'll probably throw 300 yards, but his numbers will not look nearly as good.
Sure.
All right, and we would not look nearly as good if it wasn't for you, the fans. We appreciate you all tuning in on this very special episode where we say goodbye to Tommy Heinsohn. Rest in peace. Rest in power, big friend. And, we appreciate you all tuning in. We'll catch you next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Stay safe till then. Not sure that Kyler Murray is big enough. This is Tom Brady. He's not just going to retire. Whitey, big fan of the show.
Appreciate I've got Brian Murphy to my left, making sure everything's smooth, crispy, buttery. James Harden is systematically ruining the game of basketball. He's the most overrated player. And there you are, the Chicago Bears with a championship defense. And Mitch, I'm sure Dancing with the Stars is happy to have Antonio back. If you thought you were going to get Zion,